listen to Kenneth Zenith Cablevision. Thank you for watching. It's time for talk. Each evening at this time, Monday through Friday, Rosemary interviews local personalities and others who bring items of interest to this community. Time for Talk is a community betterment service. Tonight, Rosemary takes us by means of portable camera out of our studios and maybe into your neighborhood. And now, it's time for Talk.
What better thing could a city have than a group of men who are working not for their own interest, but for the interest of the town in which they live? It speaks a lot for the men who do this, and you see pictures on the wall behind me of just such men who have come into this area, who were born in this area many times, and who work for the betterment of this community. And we hope to bring you in the next few weeks interviews with these men who are still in the area, and we'll talk about what Kennett was like when they came, and you can see what Kennett's like now. Past presidents of the Chamber of Commerce. 1946 was Charles B. Baker. 1947, Earl Jones. 1948, Hal McHaney. 1949, John Dalton. 1950, Elbert Ford. 1951, T.M. McCall. In 1952, Flake McHaney. And speaking of Flake McHaney, we have him here in the seat facing me right now. Flake, you and I both had black hair at one time.
That's right. I had hair at one time.
And now you've just got an extra wide part.
That's right. A real wide one.
Okay. Flake, you were the 7th president of this Chamber of Commerce, and we're talking 52?
52, yes. I was elected in 51.
Okay. Now, you are a native of this area, right?
White Oak, Missouri.
Okay. I've heard a lot of jokes about the University of White Oak and whatever. I think some people have done this, but White Oak is a great farming community, right?
Yes.
And your parents before you, how many years? When did they come to this area?
My dad came to White Oak in 1896.
And he's talked about those years to you. It was what, all timberland?
Yes, it was timberland. White Oak was a timber town, as a matter of fact. Had a large sawmill there at that time.
Okay, so you grew up in White Oak.
That's correct.
Now, talk to me about your moving into the Kennett area.
Well, upon my graduation from law school, I came to Kennett to practice law.
Okay.
And that was the reason for me being in Kennett.
And the year you started practicing law was
1948.
Okay, you, not long before we came to Kennett then, you started a law practice here. Tell me what Kennett was like.
Well, Kennett was a city, small city, of about 4,800 people at that time. And
so about half the size it is.
Just about half
the size.
the size.
Half the size it is now.
It is now.
What about the economic situation in those years, in the 40s?
Well, in the 40s, the economic conditions in Kennett had improved considerably, and I considered it a prosperous town at the time compared to other towns in this area.
Okay. Do you remember your first client?
Well, yes. I remember my first lawsuit. That was an interesting experience. Josh Billings was the circuit judge. Burl Riddler and I had just gotten out of law school. We were graduated about the same month. And I suggested to him that we go to what was called term day, the first day of the term, which was in July. Neither of us had taken the bar examination. It was given the last of July. Neither of us was authorized to practice law, therefore. And I told Burl I was told it was an educational experience just to sit there and see what was going on. they brought over a prisoner who was charged with first-degree murder. And he didn't have funds to employ a lawyer, and Judge Billings appointed Bill Riddle and me as his attorney.
Did he know
I
that
protested.
Oh, okay.
I said, Your Honor, I call to your attention that neither Mr. Riddle or I have taken the bar, and we're not authorized to practice law. And his answer was, you will be when this case is set for trial. I'm going to set it far enough in advance so that you will. We were sworn in as lawyers, and 2 weeks later we tried a first-degree murder case.
Well, did you win or lose?
Well, we considered we won because we had a hung jury.
All right. Now, this wouldn't happen in this day and time.
Oh, the Supreme Court would spank everybody if you would appoint lawyers who had never tried a lawsuit and been just out of law school to represent somebody in a first-degree murder. Well, the appellate courts would spank everybody connected with it.
All right. Okay, now, were you in this town then when the chamber was organized?
No.
No.
No, it was organized in the latter part of 45. Its first regular meeting was January of 46. And in January of 46, I was entering law school.
Oh, that's right. All right. So when did you get into the chamber? When you first came to Kennett? When
Yes,
you first began to practice law,
yes.
You became a member of the chamber?
Which was 1948.
All right. And then 4 years later, you're president of this.
3 years later.
3 years. All right. I can't keep my math straight on this. Flake, tell me what were people saying about what the chamber, about the need for the chamber?
Well, of course, the need had already been established because it had been in existence for 7 years at that time. So they weren't discussing the need at that time.
Okay.
Well, I think it's well to know that prior to the formal establishment of the Chamber of Commerce, we had 2 or 3 bodies that served the function of a Chamber of Commerce. They weren't called a Chamber of Commerce.
What were they?
Originally, the Lions Club, which was the first civic club organized, they, for a period of time, sort of acted like a Chamber of Commerce. And then it was followed, there was a businessmen's organization, and I think it was called the West End Business Association or something like that. And they functioned in the capacity of a Chamber of Commerce. There was a man named Williams who had a floor shop here. You probably remember that. The floor shop was down next to Spence's office at that time. Mm. And he and his brother, and he was the secretary of that Businessmen's Association.
Okay, so, and from that Businessmen's Association and from the Lions Club pushing on this came the Chamber of Commerce organization.
That's right.
When you came into office, what things took your time? What were you actively working on?
Well, the chamber preceding me had developed, they saw the need for certain things. Following the war, there was a great need for housing in Kennett. And the Baker Subdivision was a promotion by the Businessmen's Association. It wasn't designed to make money. It was designed to furnish some housing that was badly needed with all the veterans returning from service. And you'd be interested in knowing that those houses, including a lot, including a paved street, and including water and sewer, sold for $6,000. 3.5% loan, 40-year loan, 3.5%.
Them days are gone forever, I think.
Well, some of those same houses have sold for as high as $65,000.
So you promoted the subdivision to house the people that were coming out of service and going to move to Kennett. All right. Now, where did you go from there? In early 50s, what else was going on?
Well, we actively were seeking factories, and the existence of the present factories in Kennett, in every instance, as a result of the efforts of the Chamber of Commerce. Of course, it wasn't the same year. Emerson was the first factory, and the others came later.
Now, Ely Walker was
Yes, Ely Walker.
Ely Walker was in existence.
They were in existence.
From when? From the 20s? I'm not sure what year Ely Walker
Yes,
came.
in the 20s.
Okay. And so that was your only big industry at that point?
At that point, that's right.
I don't remember when Emerson came in, but it was surely in the 50s sometime.
Well, early 50s, yes.
Okay. And so did you, as a president, were you actively seeking these industries to come in, and what does the chamber do?
Well, yes, we were actively seeking. We would solicit industries, we would visit industries, and tell them of the virtues of Kennett and why they should come here. And we would talk with the county commission about favorably treating them tax-wise, because this was something that all industries feared, that if they would locate in an area, they'd be seized for high taxes. We'd have to talk to the public utility people about a favorable utility rate. And Kennett's always had a favorable utility rate, and that was always an advantage Kennett had over a lot of places.
Okay, so the chamber, now I hadn't thought about this. Do you have to worry about the tax base, and you want a tax break for the industry? You have to show them.
It wasn't necessarily a tax break, but it was assurance that they would not be mistreated tax-wise.
Well,
I'll tell you an interesting fact that will astonish you. Out of the first 40 presidents of the Kennett Chamber of Commerce, only 2 of them were born in Kennett. Doesn't that surprise you?
yes, it does. Tell me which 2.
Earl Jones and Welton Oaks.
Were the only 2 born in Kennett. Now, that is a statistic, all right?
And I think it's a real compliment to Kennett, because to me it indicates that Kennett was viewed as a good place to move to, a good place to live, and it attracted people who were interested in promoting a community and taking an active part in the development of a community. And I think it's a real tribute to Kennett that they weren't born in Kennett.
But now, when they come from White Oak, that's not all that far away.
Of course not. Well, a lot of these people were born out in the country from Kennett.
Yes.
Like Charlie Baker, for example, the first president. He was born in the Nesbitt community, just out of Cena.
And Hal McHaney.
He was a brother of mine, and he was born in White Oak, just as I was.
Okay. And so he was president, I see, in 1948, and you heard the ins and outs of the chamber from him probably in those years.
Sure.
So Flake comes from a family that's had farming in its background, had law in its back. Your brother was your brother a lawyer also?
I had two brothers who were lawyers.
So, and did your father encourage you this way, or did you all come up with this idea on your own?
Our father encouraged us to go to college. He didn't encourage us to be lawyers. He just encouraged us to go to college.
Okay, all right.
And he encouraged me by, I wanted to escape the cotton field.
I think everybody did.
And when I was about 15 years old, I kept trying to persuade him that I ought not have to go pick cotton. And he said, I'll make a deal with you. If you will promise me that you will graduate from college, I'll let you quit picking cotton. I said, I promise, I promise, I promise.
In your own opinion, secretly now, and this is mine also, would people be better off if they had to work harder like you had to work and like I did?
Well, I think all children would be better off if they had chores to do.
Yep.
And if there was something for them to work at and develop a discipline of work habits. But, you know, the progress of society has eliminated most of those. For example, back in the early days, back in my childhood, every home had a chore of carrying in wood or carrying in coal.
Or milking cows?
Or milking cows,
or
yes.
rendering the lard? Or
I milk 2 cows every morning.
At what hour?
Well, I caught a school bus at 7 o'clock, so I had to have milk before that time.
All right. Okay. You've been listening to Flake McHaney. He has been past president, very active citizen in this town and in this whole area, past president of the Kennett Chamber of Commerce in 1952, and you've been listening to him reminisce about those years and some of the things that happened and some of the things that are still happening.
You have been watching Time for Talk.